Okay.
Yeah.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Gaddis. I will be a 4-year senior on Team 2005, and I'm also Team 2005 lead analyst. And today I'll be presenting to you guys about our data-driven scouting system. So why Team 2005 decided to invest in scouting in the beginning? So normal pick list generation at an FRC competition isn't the hardest thing to do. You can have somebody tallying up marks of total scored items from teams across. You don't need the data right away. You just need about 70 or 80% of the matches overall, and then you can put it in Excel or overall just have your team look at it, quantify it, and decide who you're going to pick based on that. But where data-driven scouting and enhancing your scouting system comes more into play is when you're talking about match-to-match strategy, when you can start getting that data fast enough to where you can have instantaneous data on robots before each match. So instead of going into a match, say you're going against 140 and 118, saying, okay, we know we're going to lose this match, there's no way we can beat them. You can go into this match saying, okay, we know this year 148 can do this and 118 can do this, but we also know that our alliance has the ability to do this, this, and the third. So it gives you an upper hand because you have all the data on their teams, you have the data on all the teams in the competition instantaneously at your hand, and it allows for you to make strategies that will apply to each match at a time. Another part of investing into the scouting system is just the education that you get from creating a scouting system for your team, such as graphical user interface generations, app development if it's Android or iOS, and all the data analytics, data science, or data engineering that your team has to use to store this data, collect the data, and manipulate the data. So Team 2005 started scouting in 2014. 2014 was the first year that the TI mentors came to start mentoring our team. And this year we were mainly trying to get the mechanical parts of our team down, building a good robot, programming a good robot. So scouting was developed here, but it didn't come with the most complex system. It was just paper scouting. We had all our scouting on paper and then transferring it over to an Excel workbook, looking at it that way. But in 2015 is when we had the initial tablet design, the initial tablet idea, when we started creating the app and using the app and thinking more about visualizing for our students. 2016 is when we got our consistent scouting app going. 2015 had a couple of problems with a data transfer from the tablets to a laptop. But 2016 is when we decided to use QR codes to transfer the data that the tablets collected to the laptop and store it. And this year we also started to visualize the data using Spotfire, which is a BI tool. 2017 is when we decided to redesign the entire scouting app as a whole to make it a more visual scouting app that was more interactive for the scouts. And we also decided to switch over from using Spotfire as our BI analytical tool to Tableau as our BI analytical tool. 2018, we decided to start using the cloud as a storage system. Until then, the storage system for getting, we decided to use that as a storage system so we could have faster connectivity with the data from the tablets to the laptop. The problem that we were having with living in the cloud is that Google syncing all the data was dependent on Wi-Fi at the venues. Because obviously you can't use your own hotspot, so the only time that we'd be able to use the Google Cloud Sync is if the venue had Wi-Fi that the teams were allowed to use, so we wouldn't be breaking any rules. Other than that, we would have to use USB sticks to still transfer the data, and that was still a little bit more of a task for the students to have to go and retrieve the data via USB from each tablet over and over again, whatever we needed to generate a sheet for each new match. And that's why this year we decided to change all the tablets to using Bluetooth to sync. So all the tablets are connected to one laptop via Bluetooth, and they are able to sync all of their files via Bluetooth to a laptop that is connected to the internet via a tether to a device that has LTE. So we're not having to use any type of Wi-Fi at all, and all of it is able to be run. So why are you here? Overall, you're here for the explanation of our scouting system. You're here for an overview of the idea of data-driven scouting. There's multiple ways to do data-driven scouting. This is just our way of how we're doing it. You're here to understand the power that data can give you in FRC, and hopefully this will lead you to begin empowering your team using a data-driven scouting system. So a high-level design of our scouting infrastructure. So this year, instead of just having 6 scouts, we now have 12 scouts. We have 6 A scouts and 6 B scouts. And all scouts have a tablet with the application on it. So the data from these tablets are taken and synced via Bluetooth to the lead analyst laptop. Now, lead analyst has the only laptop that's in the stands, and this is the one that's basically connecting everything together. The lead analyst laptop has all the Tableau workbooks on it. It has it has the local database. It has everything that's connected. Everything that's connecting the stands to the pit is on the lead analyst's laptop. From here, you have the lead scout, who is able to input qualitative data. So all the tablets have the quantitative data, and then they have notes on them as well that are synced through the database. But the lead scouts are able to give instantaneous qualitative data that the draft coach might want to hear faster, such as what robot might have broken this match or things like that. So we don't miss out on the data. It's also able to be transferred through the lead analyst, through the cloud to the drive coach, and able to be talked about and communicated. Yes, ma'am.
So you've had no issues with 12 simultaneous Bluetooth connections, or how does that work?
So there's no real issue with the connections together. The problem that we have had is that the distance that you are away from the device. So like at state championships, when we had the crisis of the seating stands, when you had your scouting section versus the people who weren't scouting, the lead analyst not being able to be over there, it was a little tricky trying to get connected to trying to get the files from those tablets just because of the range that we were away from them, the distance that we were away from them. We were having a little bit of problems with the speed of it at the beginning, but we made a minor fix before Worlds, I believe, that increased the speed of the transfer of the files. At first, the script was going through and looking through every single file each time that it was trying to load files onto it, instead of just looking for new files that were added. So it was increasing the speed of collecting the files over and over and over again. So that was a quick fix that we made between state championships and world championships, and that significantly increased the speed of transferring the data. So this is the interface for our scouting system. So this is this was originally created by Team 111 and implemented by 2005. Back in 2017, we went to this new application. And as you can see, it is a user interface for people to make marks on it instead of just drop downs, let's say 1, 2, 3, or just counting totals. So it allows for our scouters to click an action on the right here and place where the action happened or occurred on the field. And this allows for us to do a lot of things when it comes to visualizations, and allows for us to get more data from it overall. We are able to get X and Y locations on the map, and we're able to get timestamps of when the action was placed down, which allows for us to calculate cycle times. It's an Android-based application only, so this isn't on iOS. It was developed in Android Studio, and it is only for Android tablets. And it's able to be tailored year to year with minimal effort. This field is changed every year for each game, and the actions are changed every year for each game. But other than that, this connection that's with the Blue Alliance that allows for us to sync all the matches from each schedule, and allows for us to auto-generate, it auto-picks the teams that the scouters are going to scout based on what they are in the Blue Alliance. So if you're Blue 1 and 148 is Blue 1 in match 2, it's going to tell you when you get to match 2 that you're going to be scouting 148. You don't have to look at the alliance stations or anything. You know you're going to be scouting each match. It's auto-generated the entire time. Each scouter inputs marks on the map that gives you all the data. So it's an interactive scouting system that definitely allows for the scouters to stay more involved. It's a little bit more exciting than just tapping drop downs, bubbling in things. So it allows for you to stay more involved in the match overall. And on this application, it still allows for qualitative notes for post-match diagnosis. So the post-match diagnosis holds more true or false questions. It holds rankings for, say, driver skills and things like this. So more of the qualitative data is more on the post-match side of things. So the backend for our scouting system, how everything is run overall. So we have 2 Python scripts that run the scouting system. One is our Bluetooth file transfer protocol tool. And what this does is this is a script that's run and it pulls the files from all 6 of the tablets and it transfers it to a Google Drive folder on the scouting laptop. The next Python script that is used is a script that then pulls those files that are stored in the Google Drive folder and it runs through them and parses them into our local and cloud database that are run by MySQL and Google Cloud SQL. These store all the rows and data that we will then analyze using Tableau. And Google Drive just overall holds everything that we use. So it has all of our scripts, workbooks, anything that goes on with the scouting system is inside of the Google Drive, so we have easy access to it, can always see it. So analytics and breaking down the data that you receive. We're currently using Tableau right now as our analytical tool, and Tableau has a lot of cool things that you can use to it that makes things easier. So Tableau automatically connects to our local and cloud database, so there's no problem when it comes to getting the data, and it refreshes automatically, stays up to date with the database. Tableau also has different product tools that are there to be used. Tableau is also, you also get a Tableau license. FRC teams get a free Tableau license for the FRC season. And there's a tool other than Tableau Desktop that's called Tableau Prep. And we have used Tableau Prep to allow for our database to be more simplified. So back in like 2017 and 2018, each year there would have to be a Python script that was made specifically tailored for that game, and that would have to be made year on year on year. And that wasn't a minimal effort tool. That was something that had to be, had to be paid attention to, had to be made over the course of the build season. And it was something that was a little bit harder for students to do as a whole, because it was a little bit of a complicated Python script to write. And so this year we came in and thought about it and decided that we needed to make the year-to-year task of maintaining our scouting system an easier thing. And by going over to a database and simplifying the database, we thought that that would be the easiest thing. You don't have to change the scouting application too much. All you have to do is do the minimal changes. You never have to touch the database at all. The database should stay the same for year on and year out. And the only thing that you have to adjust is one of the parsers when it comes for the match items. So using Tableau Prep allows for us to pivot out our database. So the way that the database basically works is that it has the columns that are collected for X and Y and scatter names like a location, things like that. And then it has one column that holds all the action values. So the action values aren't separate columns in the database. They're all inside of one column. And we go into Tableau Prep to pivot out those columns and get the values for them. So the database doesn't do any of that. It just stores it. And then we pull the database into Tableau Prep and pivot it out. And then we create a separate CSV file that we then connect to Tableau, because Tableau is able to connect to more than one data source. And we use both of the data sources. We use the database mainly for when it comes to the X and the Y and the cycle times. And then we use our CSV when it comes to all of the count of how many cargo was scored, how many hatchbounds was scored, things like that. Tableau is what also runs all of our visualizations for our print sheet that our drive coach receives. So I'm gonna show you guys our Tableau workbook, some of the visualizations inside of our Tableau workbook. I'll show you guys in the print sheet just in a second. I have to connect to the cloud database. But until that, So these are just a couple of visualizations that we have made. These are more of our when we go to our scouting meeting, that's right before alliance selection, things like that. These are some of the visualizations that we're able to look at. So in Tableau, you can make it's pretty easy to make very, very nice graphs that are easy to read. And the reason why bringing your data into a visualization system instead of just keeping it in, say, an Excel workbook is beneficial is because seeing the data and seeing what the data creates is a lot easier than just looking at numbers repetitively. So it also allows for you to see trends faster. So here is just a review of total items scored overall. So this one has hash panels and cargo inside of it. And on top is just a normal bar plot, but then on the bottom here we have a box of whiskers plot. So 30 to 10 scored overall total almost 140 items. We can see that. But when you're able to look at the box of whiskers plot, you're able to also see what their averages were usually like. So the reason why we use the box of whiskers plot here, this is where it also comes into things where you can just think about. When it comes to using data and manipulating data, when you're using smaller data sets that don't have the biggest amount of data points, using a median over a mean allows for a more consistent average. Just because means are pulled by means are skewed easier than medians are skewed. So here we're able to see that on average they were averaging 12 items. So we can see that they had a total of 140 items, which is amazing. But here we're also able to see what teams will usually give us. So we're able to see, okay, if we're looking for, say for instance, say for instance we're like the 5th alliance captain, we're looking for a paper, say, okay, we know we're not going to get 30 to 10 or 148 or 2468, any of these teams up here, right? We have to come back here to the middle ground. We can start looking at who's the most consistent. Who do we know is going to be executing what we want over and over and over again, who has the most consistency. So we can scroll over here and highlight, okay, they get 6 items per match normally, 6.5 items per match, 6 items. And then, say for instance, we were like, okay, we're picking between 75.21 and 624. 64 has a little bit of a higher average, but 75.21 has a shorter range, so they have more consistency in the amount of items that they're putting out. So being able to visualize the data allows for you to see things like that you might skip over or might not look at if you were just reviewing it in an Excel worksheet or if you were just looking at it by hand on paper. Those are things that you can't see if you don't bring it into a visualization tool like this. And of course, all of our workbooks are held in our Google Cloud as well. Everything is stored inside the Google Cloud. So as a summary, we as a team data mine approximately 400,000 points of data per event, which comes to more than 1 million data points at the end of FRC competition season. This allows for us to have relative accuracy in describing teams' performances throughout an event. And it also allows for us to create solid alliance strategies for match to match. And it allows for us to have a very good idea of what we want and who we want to put together for an elimination alliance. Of course, nothing is ever done being iterated on and being improved on. So future improvements that we have ideas for on the scouting app, incorporating real-time qualitative scouting. So like I said when I was talking about the higher level infrastructure breakdown, right now we have the lead scouts who might, our drive coach Marco might ask, okay, what does 4265 look like? What did they do in the last match? He might ask that over Discord. And he'll have a couple of people reply that tell him, it looks like they might have blown a gearbox this last match. It looks like we might have done this. But finding and having a better way that incorporates that qualitative data into the whole process that we already have that's going through the cloud and allowing for him to be able to look at it over the cloud, making it easier and more accessible overall to the drive coach and making it easier for him to get. Creating making our data transfer connectivity more robust. As I talked about earlier, with the Bluetooth connection and syncing, it does have that range limit that we started running into. So overall, just making that system more robust. It's a good system, and I'm pretty sure we want to continue with it. Just making it more robust, making sure we don't have as many failures. Tailor the data more. So Tableau, like I said, it has a lot of mini products, and another one of the products is Tableau Online. Right now, Marco gets a PDF sheet that you guys saw. So that's just a PDF that he looks through and can scroll through. So he can't do any of the hovering over the data points and see the things that I just showed you on Tableau. He can't do any of that with the PDF. But Tableau Online allows for you to place a workbook online, connect to the data sources, have them updated, things like that, and allows for other people to also have the application to look at the same workbook in real time. So if we were able to get everything on the Tableau Online, we would allow for Marco, instead of going to Google Drive and looking at his workbook, he would be able to go to Tableau Online. He would be able to hover over the data points himself, be able to play with the data and look at it more intuitively by himself, without just having to have a PDF that limits him more. And as you guys saw in the scouting infrastructure, we have an A and B scouts now. So as the team continues to grow, you're obviously going to have more roles that you can place. So adding the number of scouts is something that's ultimately going to come as your team grows. But it's about effectively making a system that's able to use both A and B scouts. This year, we only used the data from the A scouts when it came to making visualizations and manipulating the data. But there are a lot of great ways to integrate A and B scouting that we have seen, or that we have communicated with other teams about, such as a ranking system for the scouts that would have your application choose which scouts data to use. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go with integrating more than just one scout on one robot, and it has been done by different teams. So it's just improving on that idea for us having 12 scouts instead of just having 6 scouts, and making real use of having the ability to have 12 scouts instead of just 6 scouts. And I'll open the floor for questions. I didn't exactly know that the time was an hour, so that was about 30 minutes. So the slide was more tailored for a 30-minute slide. Yes?
Can you open one of the driver sheets, the PDF?
Yeah. Do you want it on PDF or Tableau?
If you can do it on Tableau, that's fine, but it looks like the database is having trouble connecting. Do you want to work on that? So it's he's going to open what our drive coach gets sent, which is a sheet that has a tabulation of everything for our alliance and a tabulation of everything for the opposing alliance. And so, like you said, right now it's just a PDF, so it's kind of dumb, but the Tableau version allows you, even the PDF version allows you to say what's us versus them, and it's going to show you what a drive coach can see. It helps them. One thing that wasn't mentioned in this presentation was that when we started scouting, not just scouting like simple numbers, but scouting every individual robot action, that really, being a relatively unknown team at the time when we started this, it really helped us in pre-matched conversations. It's a way you almost instantly gain a little bit of trust and credibility in that conversation when you can say you scored 5, I'll say hash panels, of course this is a couple of years ago, not this year, your team scored 5, 4, 3, 2, whatever, for each of the matches prior to this. When you know your partner's exact scores in exact locations, then you can kind of cut through some of the fluff at the beginning of the conversation and get to the actual facts of the data about what does a stack up look like. And if it's a straight up win, then you can play straight strategy. And if it's something that looks like you probably don't have the guns to win directly, now it's a time to play something more creative in terms of the strategy. So the PDF version of this is what's sent to our drive page. And I'll let Adam talk about the sections.
So this is what it looks like on Tableau. So this first part up here, this is just a placing of all the items that they scored on the same field image. So
A little bit. So, yeah. See back here.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to read even here. Control plus.
thank you.
Mm.
Sorry, Billy, you have to manual zoom, you have to move closer.
Yeah, you have to. Low tech style.
Manual zoom in?
That's all right.
She's making a joke.
I'm making a joke. You move
Oh.
closer. That's
Oh.
how you make it bigger.
Oh,
You're fine.
okay.
Go ahead. Just go ahead and talk about the
Sorry.
plus. People can, we can get closer to the computer later if anybody has questions.
So the top part right here is just the field mapping. So as earlier in the presentation, on our scouting application, we have the field on the interface for the scouts. So the marks that they place, we're able to bring those marks back right here with the X and Y locations that are given from their placings. So we're able to see what levels that they were scoring on the rocket. So as you saw in the application, we didn't have if they scored on rocket level 1, level 2, or level 3. Because using the X and Y locations, we're able to see what level the rocket is scored on. So if you're looking at it, I know it's hard to see, but 4063, which is the one all the way over to the right, we can see that they haven't scored on the second level of the rocket or the third level of the rocket. So right away, Marco can tell that they're not going to be able to score on the third level. Our the second partner on our alliance also has to be able to score on the third level. So right away you can tell that, okay, we're the only ones who can go all 3 levels on the rocket in this match. But then you can also see what side of the cargo ship they're better at, if they're better at hatch panels or cargo right here. So the map, I know they've told us that the map wasn't the most effective for Marco this year. It has a lot of cool things on it, but there's also a lot of things to look at. It's a lot of things for your eyes right there.
He said
Especially
that was
just
the
being
most
first.
effective at gaining confidence of alliance partners, that our data was valid. So it stayed in for conversational purposes.
This next visualization right here was just the hat tendencies. So we were able to see the level that each one of our partners climbed to at in-game, and we were also able to see what level that they deployed from. And we're also able to see the count of how many times they deployed from that level or how many times that they were able to climb up. So obviously you can use this one, since we were a third level habitat climber, we could see, okay, do we have another third level hab here? Are we going to be able to, or are we going to be able to decide if we finish a rocket RP this match, because somebody else can climb, or are we going to have to go back at 30 seconds or 20 seconds and go climb? So building your strategy around the data that you have becomes easier when you can see it in a form like this. It's easier to read, easier to look through. Then here at the end, this is a match-to-match scoring trend. So this is just this is an area graph, and it goes for the amount of matches, and it shows how they've been peaking or how they've been doing as the competition goes along. So this one allows for you to see obviously the items that they scored, but it also allows for you to see if something might have happened to them. So say for instance if we were just like doing great all the way up to match 61, and then you just see like a dip where we scored no items at all for match 78 or no items for match 89. We can go to a team and be like, hey, you know, what happened in match 89? What happened here? You know, usually that would be the case where somebody's like, oh, our intake busted, we're having a problem with our drivetrain, things like this. So it allows for us to also get an upper hand on fixing some of our alliance partners. When you see the data and you're like, okay, they had a really bad match this match compared to what they've had before, there's probably definitely something wrong with the robot. Let's see if we can just go help them or see what we can do overall. It allows for that flexibility as well. So the opposing view is the exact same thing, is the exact same sheet as the alliance field. And the last one that he also receives is a scatter plot. So the scatter plot just maps all 6 of the robots that are currently in the match. It also uses a calculated column that defines if the robot is more of a panel robot or more of a cargo robot. And it places them higher on the x-axis or the y-axis depending on if they score more cargo or if they score more hatch panels. And this is another tool that we've also used before when it comes to pick listing. Scatter viewing all of the robots at a given, scatter plotting all the robots at a given competition. So obviously the robot that you would be looking for the most, if you're looking for a balanced robot, you're looking for a robot that's trending just straight down the middle. And then you're able to also look for robots that are cargo or hatch panel robots. But being able to visualize your data gives you a lot more freedom and a lot more ability when it comes to looking at pick lists or just looking at match strategies.
And I'm sorry that we came in late. This is all, you guys created an app?
Yes, we have, we didn't create the app, we implemented the app from another team, Team 111,
Oh.
but it has had very significant changes to it to tailor to our team. So it is an app that we change every single year.
Okay, so you make the changes, okay, cool.
You can show the app afterwards.
Okay.
So Adam actually has it if you guys want to take a look.
I have a tablet I could pass around for you guys to look at the app. If you want
Awesome.
to. Yes, sir.
So you mentioned at the beginning you do a pull from the Blue Alliance just to get the match schedule. Do you also kind of do a reconciliation poll if Blue Alliance says that a team scored 6 and your scouter is only marked 4? Do you do any kind of cross-checking of your data there?
No, we do not do that.
That probably should be on the future improvement
Yeah.
side.
Right.
We talked about doing that to correlate the data back.
Exactly.
We haven't got a chance to do it yet, so that technically should be future improvement.
Yes, ma'am.
How much of the back end, all of this Tableau and everything is done student versus mentors?
So I'm the lead data analyst. I do the Tableau workbook. Our team hadn't worked with a SQL database this year, so one of our new mentors, Aaron, right there, he was the one who mainly put together and helped on the creation of the SQL database and the parsing script that connected the SQL database. Then you have our other mentor, Will Go, right there. So Will Go was the initial launch of our Android Studio application. So he was the one who created the application, helped implement it.
Maintenance, but we leave a lot of the direction on what we need for the kids. So we're more
What
just
data do you need to see?
yes, we're more of a technical resource than we are necessarily or the navigation.
And all of the data that you see on the tablet, visualization, like what kind of information you want to get out of that, then all comes from the students do. So we get information from them, say, asking them, hey, what do you guys want to scout this year? And then we'll take that and put it in.
And how, from your perspective, learning Tableau and how has that been?
So actually this year, so before, when I first got into robotics, I didn't want to do anything when it came to engineering or anything like that. I just wanted to go to school and major in accounting or financing, do something like that. But when I got started on Tableau and seeing the backside of the scouting system, when I was at the end of my 9th grade year, that's when I really got invested to it. So it's actually changed my entire career path from wanting to do that to wanting to be a data scientist, major in computer science. Major in computer science was more a combination of programming on the robot and doing data analysis, but wanting to be a data scientist came from doing the data analytics on Tableau and things like that. And it's actually helped me a lot. It's a tool that you, a lot of things that I learned in robotics are things that I end up realizing that not a lot of people know how to do, or something that people usually don't know how to do. So I have an internship right now over the summer at an oil and gas company, and they use Tableau, Spotfire, and things for analyzing their wells, where the wells are, how much revenue they're making from the wells and stuff like that. And I'm an accounting intern, so I wasn't doing any of that. But I ran into the data scientist on their IT team, and was talking to him about some of the things I was doing in robotics, and he was like, how are you guys doing all these things? How do you know about this? How do you know how to use Tableau? And so I started showing him some of the things, and he was like, how do you understand this? Like, you're 17, what's going on? And so that led to him trying to steal me from my accounting supervisor to be on the IT team. So I don't know. It's just things things that I think that I never thought really I thought these were normal things, just aren't too many normal things. So it's pretty interesting. Data is a very, very interesting thing. It's a thing that's going to be with us as everything continues to grow. It's never going to go away. It's going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And being able to introduce this education to your students is something that's phenomenal.
Are there any tutorials that you might recommend, or?
So I have a playlist for the tutorials. I have some for Tableau, then I have some for just I was trying to mess around with R and other things like that. But the training videos are okay, but the best thing that you can do if your students are wanting to learn about it is just get some of the dummy spreadsheets, some of the dummy data, and just throw them on there and try to see what they can make with it. The forums for Tableau are really good, and there's Tableau Public has really good open forums when you have questions about anything, and they have pretty good documentation on what they have. So throwing them on there, having them look around and feel around and just get a feel for the application is the best way that I could go about doing it, or say about doing it. I didn't really look at the videos too much extensively. I would find some videos, say, oh, this is cool, I want to go make this, and then I would make it on Tableau. I wouldn't look at the video on how to make it, I just was looking for different things of what other people were making so I could see if I could make them.
And you said there's student licenses also?
Yes, so Tableau offers student licenses, so you have a student ID, you can get a full free year of Tableau. That's what I use, that's what I encourage you guys to use, because the license for FRC only lasts for that 6 weeks for the build season, or the competition season, sorry. So being able to practice on it in the off season and get ahead of the game, you would want to use a student license because it's year round.
Thank you.
So if there aren't more questions, you probably should, or maybe if anybody wants to see the Tableau interface, I know we passed it around, but I also realized that there's no instructions with it, so like you guys didn't see any of the clicking part, and you guys are, I think everybody else is already only playing with Autonomous, and they haven't looked at in-game yet.
Okay.
So maybe doing a little hands-on group with the tablet for anybody who wants to see it.
Okay. Where's the tab?
It's,
Okay.
I will start off with loading the events from the Blue Alliance.
Here you're able to. This is where it starts. So we get the event data from here. So I just enter the FRC team number, the year.
Okay, and how do you get there?
So
Start from the very beginning.
Here. So here's what it looks like when you open it. It won't have the matches loaded because you won't have the schedule on there right away. So you have a little options tab up here. We go to settings.
Okay.
And then we get the event data. And so from here, you enter your team number, you enter the year, and it gets all the events that year for that team. So here it's going to load up Austin. So it's going to load up Austin or any of the ones that we had this year. You select whichever one it is. So right now we're at TRI. And then we're going to get the event details. So it's going to load, and it's going to load all the matches.
And this is automatic that it goes to
Yes.
TVA?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Cool. See, our scouting, we collect all the data for all the robots like you were talking about, but organizing it, it's a little not as, it's not nearly as lovely.
Okay.
and so each tablet, normally this is like the mentor tablet, but or a spare, each of the tablets the students have are labeled red 1, red 2, or red 1A, red 2A, and so each tablet has an identity as a specific alliance position.
Okay.
So once it's loaded in, so this is Bluetooth, so it's giving you the team for Bluetooth. So here we're scouting barbecue 2714. So it automatically generates that from each list. So here we come here, we enter our scouter name, say continue. And then there's 3 modes. So there's autonomous, teleop, and then post-match. So here, I can say, okay, preloaded a panel. Say they scored a panel right here. They went across the line, got a tech file somehow. Right, so then teleop is done. They swipe over, you can swipe like this, or you can tap on the upper screen. And now you're in teleop. So switching over is also key because we're also able to analyze teleop data versus autonomous data inside of the database. So here in teleop, say they acquired a panel from here, and then scored a panel here, acquired, scored, acquired cargo. So it allows for this placing that that your students can do, and it doesn't take away from the timing of placing it. It's pretty simultaneously, just back to back, just tapping, 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 and we made a couple of changes this year that made it better. So these actually didn't used to be darkened in once you placed it. So if you didn't remember which one you pressed, you might have keyed in the wrong one. But you also have undo buttons, so I can undo all the marks that I made. If you make any mistakes, redo all the buttons. It's very friendly when it comes to mistakes. It's been pretty friendly when it comes to mistakes. And then this is the post-match diagnosis. So you come here, you can say what Tableau they deployed from. You can do what platform they climbed to. They have a buddy climber. Driver. So this is a new one that we also added. So relative driver performance. So this year we want the scouts to be more interactive with each other. So we said, okay, at the end of the match, talk to each other. Who do you guys, subjectively, who do you think was the best robot on your alliance this match? So they were able to rank their robots. If the robot was the best one on their alliance, the average one on their alliance, or the worst one on their alliance compared to the teams that were playing with them.
Now, the tablets talk to each other?
No, they have to all agree and enter the correct data. We can look at it in the back end and see if they didn't agree.
Yeah.
The tablets all just dump data to the.
But they do
laptop.
dump to something?
They all
Okay.
adapt-
And then
dump to
how
the
many, so you
laptop.
have six tablets or more?
There's 6 main tablets,
Uh-huh.
and then we have that's our A scouts, and then we have our B scouts. There's 6 more, and the idea is eventually we'll be able to rank the scouts relative to each other, and then we can promote or emphasize the data from the strongest, most accurate scout, and de-emphasize data from like we take out the mistakes.
Okay,
right?
what
It's something that Citrus does, but
what particular tablets are you using?
these are
Lenovo's the
tab.
cheapest 10-inch tablet that we could find.
Yeah.
The cheapest, okay, that makes good sense, that's what I'm thinking here.
We liked.
We have a really small
Yeah.
team.
So we did a refresh on hardware this year, and we liked the 10-inch size. I know a lot of teams are using the 8-inch size, but because we're doing the XY coordinate thing, the extra real
easier,
estate
yeah.
is important.
That makes
We
sense.
felt it was important. I know a lot of teams do use, like, you can get a really cheap Amazon Fire 8, like the 8-inch tablet, and you can get those really cheap, and they do come in red and blue, which is convenient. But
Yeah.
we were concerned about the size of the tablet, so we went with the cheapest.
Yeah, that
10-inch
makes
one.
sense, having it larger makes sense.
Yeah. And they come in 2 varieties. One has LTE capability and one does not. So all our scouts have the non-LTE one that's cheaper, and this is actually the LTE version, so we can put a SIM card in it. And this is one of the ways we can link data out and into the cloud from the laptop that's in the stands. We can USB tether the internet of this thing into the laptop, and so we have a local database, and it can mirror to the cloud.
So then once you're done scouting a match, it grays out the match for you. So you know that it's done. You don't get lost on what match number you're on. So just another
Nice.
Yeah, and
convenience.
it's auto incremented to the next one.
Very cool.
And then you can change the theme up here too. So one of the nice features that we have, go to settings. Let's say if you're sitting on a different side of the field, you can also rotate the field if you want to.
Yeah, because
Oh, no, that's nice,
you don't know which
yeah.
side of the field you're going to be on, so
That's
we do have
true.
flipping the field as
That's-
an option.
That's
That's
good.
And
important.
then you can set the team. So this is where you set. So let's say
Yeah, that one bit us really bad in
you
Dallas.
are red one. You can
Everybody
just
just got the
reset
tablet
this
upside
and
down.
So how much of the game-specific stuff, you guys had to do a lot of work to get the
Not so much, so go
game-specific
ahead and go
stuff?
back into a match. So the field obviously is new every time, but that's like a drop-in image, and as long as we keep the size the same. We refreshed the tablets this year, so Will did have to do some size, some different resolution, stuff like that, but the idea is going forward is that picture has a max size, and we'll just put the next field in with the same size picture. And then the actions, names will change next year, but the layout and everything will be the same. So instead of scoring a cargo, you're now scoring a widget or whatever thing, right? So, but because it's, the way we're logging it is X, Y, or timestamp X, Y, and then action, which is a generic fill in the blank, and that will change year to year. But because the structure is this, the structure doesn't need to change. They don't really need to change how it goes to the database every year. Right, the after-match review has a little bit of other kind of catch-all stuff in it, but this actual interface is pretty straightforward to update. Because just change the names on the buttons and put a new field picture down.
I'm going to give you my card so we can talk about this some more. I see us, we have, our max size is probably about 15. And of course, obviously, a third of that is our drive team.
Yep.
So, this would help us a lot.
So even if
We
you-
got the data,
yeah, so
but the
six-
organizing and
yeah.
analyzing of it is the
So
piece
six
we're
scouts-
missing.
6 scouts is really like the bare minimum that we would run, because then you don't get any breaks, but it's perfectly realistic that you could run this kind of system with only 4 scouts. because you can, at the end of the day, you don't need to know who the top 8 teams are, because they're gonna, like, it's gonna be really obvious.
Yeah,
Your first
it'll
pick-
show, yeah.
Yeah, it's really obvious, right? And at the bottom end, that's where you're trying to find, like,
Well, this looks user-friendly. We frequently use parents
yeah.
and draft them, you
There's a
know?
lot of open
So,
source.
so this looks really good as far as usability for somebody who really doesn't have a clue.
And there are a lot of open source ones for the 8-inch tablets, which would be a cheap and easy one. You won't have to maintain it. Other teams will maintain it for you, which is a better use of your resources, probably.
Yeah, we need to visit more.
Can we answer any other questions for any of you other things?
How does stuff like disconnecting on the field or stuff like that go into this?
I saw a note on that.
So we have right here, we also have brownout, lost connection, all right here. Anything that might happen to your robot not show up to the field, that's all on post
And in the
match.
notes section, which we can.
And I saw someplace you had marked where it says like tipped over, that kind of stuff.
Yes,
So,
yes,
yeah.
tipped over is on here as well.
One of the reasons we put in the relative ranking, and I want to find more places to utilize relative ranking, is we had, what was it, 3 years ago? We just used a 1 through 5 scale, and we still have that on there. We're just kind of trialing both right now. The relative scale is nice because we had a 1 through 5 for like drive speed, where 1 is very slow and 5
Five
is
is very fast, yeah.
Right, so that seemed pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
So
and pretty easy to determine,
three,
yeah.
And we could say things like 3 should be for 90% of your teams you see, or 60% of the teams you see should be a 3, and then maybe you go to a 4 or a 2, and then we talked about bell curve and when we got to those numbers, and so somebody put a 1, and we said, well, is it really slow? And they said, yeah, it's really slow. And we said, okay, well, we can deal with that. And we kind of figured, well, what's really slow for an FRC robot? We said, what's the slowest robot I've ever seen? We can call it that robot. It can probably do 3 cycles of, I don't know if it's effective, but it could go fast enough to do so.
Right.
We get to the field, we play the match starts, and we realize this is literally the slowest robot that's ever been made. It crawls along like this. And,
Oh, no.
And so 1 was not capable of describing very slow, very, very slow. And so by relative ranking, we should be able to pull out, this is the slowest robot at the event. And it'll give us a better.
So thank you so much. It's a match to get to. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's the difference between the relative and absolute driver performance?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that relative is the scouts all talk to each other and say,
Okay.
on our alliance, who had the best driver?
Right, so what's the absolute one?
And then that's just you yourself, how would you rank this robot? It's the system we were using before, the 1 through
Okay.
5. I think
Gotcha.
you pulled the drop down.
Okay,
for it.
so that's like
But-
individual,
so, yeah,
and then the
that's-
other is after you talk to everybody.
Yeah, so that is the system that we did
Okay.
before, which was,
Got it.
had some limitations, and so we left that as an option on there because we didn't want to there was a disagreement about which way to collect data was better. So we have both.
So just do
now.
both ways. Yep.
Yes,
Mhm.
that was the easiest way to end that discussion.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, discussion is the word I used.
Spirited debate.
Spirited
Debate.
discussion.
Yes. Passionate debate.
Yeah, we have some of those,
Yeah.
don't we,
so
Juliet?
It was like, we'll just keep it easy, guys. There's bigger problems to solve here. Yeah. So if you guys want to touch and feel on the tablet a little bit more, now that you know the interface, you're welcome to.
That's really cool. I'll pass this back here. I'm gonna see about getting us some tablets,
Did you get a chance?
because that would make scouting so much easier, wouldn't it?
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. That was awesome.